Welcome to the 359. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Ayaz Akhtar.
On Tuesday, San Francisco became the first U.S. city to ban police use of facial recognition tech. Proponents of the ban say the tech offers a slippery slope for mass surveillance, while proponents of facial recognition say that it's a useful policing tool. Ayaz.
Yes.
Do you expect more cities to follow suit with San Francisco?
I think the outright ban is a little bit much, so I don't think cities will do that right away. I did see somebody talk about a moratorium. Maybe they don't use it as a primary method of identification. Maybe it's a secondary, or maybe it's used in a very light way. But the outright ban, I think, is a little bit much. There must be a different way to regulate something like this.
Well, it's also interesting that this is obviously not a federal ban. It's still being used in a variety of other places, right?
Yeah, so I was looking at an article about this, and this does apply to San Francisco police and agencies, but the San Francisco police does not use this currently, so nothing is changing there. Plus, facial ID tech is available at airports, international airports, and ports, but that's federal jurisdiction, which means this ban has no effect on those areas.
Which means that if I went to the airport in San Francisco...
San Francisco International Airport, they could use facial recognition tech.
In theory, yeah. So it's not like the entire municipality and everything in it.
You're the Presidio, which is federal, like you can't use this.
So some additional information about this. The Georgetown Law Center on Privacy and Technology, which has been looking into facial recognition technology for quite some time, came out with a study today, this morning, saying police are using flawed data to run facial recognition searches. Those include using artist sketches, editing images to add eyes and lips, and searching for lookalikes. So to me, this seems like if people are already a little shaky on the use of facial recognition tech, this is obviously another point to say, like, hey, maybe this isn't the best thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you were an eyewitness, you go, hey, that guy looked like Ben Fox Rubin. They should be able to show a picture of Ben Fox Rubin since he's so well known, right? Now, maybe...
Of course.
I think that one of the cases actually was Woody Harrelson, a David Schwimmer lookalike, a lot of people like that. So the idea of saying this person looks like another person would be usable in a police sense. The idea that a computer is doing it and potentially getting it wrong, again, it's that final step. If for some reason the police are deploying arresting drones, yeah, I think there's a real problem there. But if there's a person then going, this is completely wrong, or this is completely right, at least there should be due process after that.
Yeah, I think that, the idea that this was proposed in the first place is that facial recognition tech is supposed to be more accurate or more credible than the human eye sometimes, or it's able to pick certain things up. Like, for instance, if you're wearing a different pair of glasses, if you have longer hair, if you dyed your hair, there are all sorts of different ways to maybe mess with the human eye, which facial recognition tech is expected to be able to just kind of sift through. Unfortunately, with this study, it seems that, hey, maybe they're messing around with it a little too much. Next up, want to switch to a different subject. We are happy to report that no, Facebook is certainly not listening to your conversations. You're not that important. CNET actually tested out this urban legend. I was forced to talk into my phone for about a week and a half trying to get advertisements about chainsaws. And no, I didn't get any advertisements about chainsaws. We found no evidence that this is actually real.
Yeah, I love the article about this. The point that this would be crazy illegal. Let's not forget that.
Illegal.
Forget the idea that, oh yeah, this would be creepy. It would cost Facebook trillions of dollars and ruining their model entirely. That they've been breaking the law this however amount of time. That would be just amazingly bad for Facebook when it comes to the press. So if they're crazy enough to do it, then yeah, they should be totally punished for it.
It's a good point that you mentioned that this would actually cost the company a lot of money, and there would, in fact, be some sort of footprint to show that Facebook is digesting that information, that it's actually gobbling up audio recordings from 2 billion of its users, or even several hundred million of those users. There would be some sort of data process that we would be able to notice, and unfortunately, security researchers haven't found that.
Yeah, the accuracy aspect of these ads, I think that's what makes people scared. But it's the links to your friends, searches that you're looking for, searches your friends are looking for, friends of friends, that kind of weird, amazing profile that can be created with all this data. On top of that, it just reminds me when I was going to buy a car. All of a sudden, when I was thinking about buying like a Honda Accord, they were everywhere. Didn't mean that they weren't there all the time. I just didn't notice them as much.
Right.
So I wonder if there's a psychological element of, I was just talking about cookies, and now there's ads for cookies. But, you might not have noticed it before because you're thinking about pizza.
Yeah, and it's a good point. Alfred Ng, in his story, talked about the fact that Facebook doesn't actually have to listen to you. It already has a ton of data about you already. But anyway, if you want to read more about these stories, check them out on CNET. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm not Bridget Carey.
Oh, geez. All right. You threw me off. Thanks for listening.
As your dynamic has completely thrown this entire show off. I'm a total Butterfingers today, and Ben can't do an outro.
He threw me off. That was not entirely
That's
my fault.
absolutely Aya's
Whatever. What are you
fault.
going to do?
We can call it, fresh blood.
Yes.
Or we can call it a monkey wrench. I don't care what you call it. Fresh
Listen,
monkey wrench.
I will be prepared next time. And by the way, thank you very much for coming on. It's always fun to have you.
Yeah,
so.
I'm looking forward to being back at a more regular basis.
Yes.
It's been a long time.
Absolutely.
It required Roger getting deported.
Yes, we got rid of Roger,
Yeah.
and he's out in San Francisco for the next month. So, yes,
Right.
you will be seeing more of Ayaz in the coming days.
Roger did not get deported. He's on a business trip.
Yeah.
For now.
In case you were really wondering.
Okay, so welcome back to the 359 post show brought to you by the Honda Accord, apparently.
Sure.
Yeah.
The 1995 Honda Accord.
I'm not that
the
old.
the best car ever.
I was looking at, I think it was around 2002.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. They had 240 horsepower at the time and a tiny, tiny car.
Oh,
Super
wow.
cheap.
You're 7 years younger than I thought you were.
I'm very
kidding.
old.
I'm kidding.
I am very interested to see what happens to my computer that I'm monitoring the stream on after the show. Even if they don't listen to us speaking, maybe they do listen to the media that's being circulated. So we'll see
Look,
what happens
if
there.
I get any chainsaw ads from this, I will be so gratified because literally while we were doing this informal review, I had to, open up Facebook on my phone, and I just started talking about chainsaws, skydiving, and Casper mattresses. And I keep opening up Facebook to be like, okay, if this urban legend is true, bring on the chainsaws. And we did it for like a week and a half. Like nothing happened. I kept getting the exact same ads as before because, newsflash, it's a conspiracy theory. I know Facebook has no credibility here, but
Right.
Facebook has repeatedly said that it's not happening. So, you have to weigh the evidence at some point and say, like, okay, this is probably not true.
The internet is, in fact, about 127% conspiracy theory. So just putting that out there.
This is what we're here to try to debunk at least some of the more ridiculous ones.
Right.
So, and I would argue that this is one of them.
And there was some theorizing that Facebook perhaps is buying some recordings done by other apps, and maybe that's how they're gleaning this information. But even that seems like there would be some kind of trail that they would get caught for this, because they're under scrutiny enough. I just couldn't imagine. I know Facebook does some crazy and what seems to be like ill-advised things.
Ill-advised for sure.
But to do this kind of thing, even Facebook couldn't be that stupid.
Yeah, I think Alfred's argument is, I would believe, the strongest one, which is they don't even need to do this. They've actually got enough of your information already, and you provide so much of it to them for free that they don't really need to bother actually listening into your conversations to find out what it is that you plan on buying next. And I'll add to that I find it so infuriating that even though we give all these tech companies so much credit and so much attention on how smart they are, how these algorithms have outsmarted humanity and they're taking us over, every single time I buy a pair of shoes or I buy something out, I'll get the ads for that stuff after the purchase. They still haven't figured that out yet. And it's just maddening to me that okay, maybe they're not as smart as we keep giving them credit for.
Well, maybe you want another pair of shoes and another pair of shoes. Maybe this is a start of addiction. Maybe that's what you don't understand.
That they're right and I'm wrong?
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like when I'd buy one awesome Marvel poster, get it framed, it's ready.
Hey.
And then for the next,
You want it again?
and for the next 3 months, I'd get all posters. I'm like, I don't need another one. This thing is gigantic. I'm not spending another $50 on
What's
this.
even more infuriating is let's say I bought a $600 television or something. They're like, yo, you want to you need a TV for that TV? I'm like, no, I don't.
You need 4 of them.
You need 4 of them.
Or 6 of them like we have outside. That
Yeah.
don't work.
All right, let's get to
Facebook.
questions.
Facebook, brought to you by Exhibit and Pimp My Ride.
Yes, thank you very much for picking up that reference.
Okay, so by and large, it looks like a lot of the audience is, in fact, kind of in agreement with us, at least
No
to the extent
kidding.
of either ban Facebook fully ban break up Facebook and Google, ban facial recognition tech. I just think we should go back and live in the woods. Anybody want to go to, like, live in a cabin with me somewhere?
No.
And just wait for the drones to come kill us?
But okay,
Yeah,
well,
I'm down. I'm totally for that. That's like one long bachelor party, and I'm into it. We
You know-
can build a fire, and hopefully you'll be a little less grumbly. But
right,
yeah,
because
we'll have fun.
there's nothing that there's like wild animals and food is scarce and that ability to not get things on Amazon Prime, that's not going to be a problem in the woods.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to be like, hey, are we out of leaves? Which one of you used all the leaves?
We'll be
Yeah.
fine if Ben just brings his chainsaw.
That's right. That's
And
right.
your Casper
chainsaw,
mattress.
chainsaw.
Casper
Come
mattress.
on. I'm looking. Send me those chainsaw ads.
Okay, let's take some questions and comments. This one just came in from Tammy. I think it's more of a case that the more you're aware of something, the more you do notice it.
Totally.
So, like, when you're talking about something and then you start seeing the ads for it, it's going to catch your attention more. Totally,
I
Tammy.
think that's called
It's,
confirmation bias, and I totally agree with Tammy on this one.
it's psychosomatics, really. Is that the right term I'm using there?
That to a certain extent, yes, but I think like the specific term is called confirmation bias.
Tendency
where-
to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs or theories. I don't know if that's technically correct.
Sort of.
It's close
Yeah.
to it, though. You guys are close. I
We're
don't know if you
both
have a word for
close.
this.
Yeah, but yeah, it's is Facebook listening to this conversation? We don't know. I know YouTube is, so there's that.
I mean, Storm King's asking if they're possibly not listening all the time, but maybe at chosen intervals. Like you said, you were on your phone for a solid, 2-3 weeks trying to, like, bait
I was
that.
doing it intermittently, but when you open up the Facebook app and all you do is repeatedly say the same word over and over again, and then never get an ad related to that, you like the ads were the same before as after. I think that at least has some sort of statement about maybe there really is nothing to this, and I kind of feel goofy talking into my phone doing it. So it's just, and I didn't even get anything remotely close to it. Like if I got a Home Depot ad, Home Depot sells chainsaws, like maybe I could have had a leg to stand on here, but like that didn't happen. I was getting the same ads as before, which were the New York Times and Ecobee and Wired, and I don't know. Those
They're
are three
home related,
of
though.
them.
Ecobee is just, they make thermostats.
There-
So maybe
yeah.
like you don't need firewood with that chainsaw of yours. I was looking up
You're right.
I was looking up the term for this. Is it confirmation bias or not? Frequency illusion looks like it's one of them. It's called also the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. So the idea of like this article is about when you learn a new word, you see it everywhere. This,
Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. I think that is generally what
Bader-Meinhof
this conspiracy theory
Right.
is connected to.
So it's there's selective attention. There's lots of different parts to this. So it's a very complicated. Well, not complicated. It has multiple parts. I'm going to look
Yeah.
into this in the future. Look up
frequency bias. Is
frequency
that right?
illusion.
Frequency illusion. I like that. That might be closer to it than confirmation bias. I think confirmation bias has more to do. Yeah, I think you're right. It has
Frequency
more to do
illusion.
with.
Is a type of cognitive bias,
Mm-hmm.
not confirmation bias. So I think that's why maybe you had that in your head rattling around in your file cabinet.
Sure.
Cognitive, confirmation, they're really close.
Yeah, it's possible.
It is an interesting psychological element to it. I thank you for bringing that up. I'm sure we're all kind of like slowly trying to digest this, but yeah, I kind of agree though. Like the whole conspiracy theory thing doesn't line up. You said Alfred said it best. They already have enough information on you. What is this one more channel? Just put your mind at ease at least on that much, even though they already are going to completely ruin your life regardless.
Yes, Alfred usually says it grumpiest and best.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Matthew Dasher does a great comment. Has legality ever stopped Facebook before?
I mean,
Yes.
come on. They're
Absolutely.
a major.
They're a publicly traded company.
They're
Yes.
a major publicly traded company, which means they are beholden to, existing laws. So, Cambridge Analytica happened, and they were obviously they had to answer to those problems, and I think that they're
Was
facing
it illegal
a lot
or
of,
violation of terms? It wasn't like illegal necessarily. That's
no,
what the thing
nobody
was.
went to jail. Nobody
Right.
went to prison for it.
There's no
if that's what
fines
you
on it
mean.
either, right?
They may have faced
Did
fines.
they get fines?
I'm not 100%
me
sure if they
double-check
faced
this.
fines or not, but they definitely got brought before Congress, and also I think in the UK, like there were a lot of hearings specifically related to that. So I think there are a lot of gray areas that Facebook deals with where maybe there aren't laws or regulations that are directly connected to what it is that they do, but I don't think that they outright break the law.
You're correct.
And if they do, then they can get fined for
They
that
were
kind of thing.
fined by the UK's data protection watchdog for £500,000.
That is a drop in the bucket, but I'm glad they got fined
did he
for
get fined?
something. Yeah.
All right, we got some interesting comments coming in from Storm King. What if there were hot words that trigger Facebook listening that are associated with specific advertisers, like televisions or cell phones? Now, on the flip side of this, Constantin, I think it's Constantin, points out that an ad would have to be registered to Facebook for them to match it for the data you could give them. Just because you say shovel doesn't mean someone out there is already paying for a shovel ad to exist.
I'd also like throwing in the Amazon Echo. I feel like as far as like wake words or catchphrases or catchwords, like you're talking to the Echo a lot, and it's possible that Amazon is at least digesting and processing that information to find out if people are using certain trademark terms or, I don't know, saying peanut butter a lot. I'm not entirely sure. Like the problem is that a lot of that information is messy. You know, like, are you saying that term, are you saying peanut butter because you ran out of peanut butter and you need more peanut butter? Or are you saying it for any number of other reasons? Or you just told somebody a joke?
That's a lot of instances of saying the phrase peanut butter.
That's
I
what
was
I'm
thinking
saying.
about it. Now you're going to get ads for peanut butter.
I just did.
Oh, you did?
I'm kidding.
Wow.
This is how conspiracy stuff gets started because that'll be cut out. I just did see evidence of this. I doubt that other words are triggering Facebook's microphone to turn on. Like you were saying, Ben, the idea of the amount of data that had to go back and forth, like there would be a footprint of some kind, unless for some reason Facebook has the most amazing AI that they're doing it all on the device and it's somehow never sending it back to their servers to serve you ads, which would be, I don't know how they do it.
The way that they make money, it's already very well known. You know, Facebook is a giant consumer survey where you're providing them all the information, and it's invaluable information, and they're able to divvy that up and target. You know, IAS has these specific demographic figures. Ben has these. For somebody that wants to serve ads, they can just serve IAS, or they can serve Ben, or they could serve the both of us. And, you know, do they need the audio recordings to do an even more effective job? I don't really think so.
I mean, I think they could do a more effective job, but again, why would you go undertake that effort? The amount of servers that would be necessary, I think it was the Times, they have like, what, 2 billion users, right? Facebook at this point, or something like that. Just if they're listening to one like second of every person, that's 2 billion of something.
Yeah,
That's
you're multiplying 2 billion by any of that.
That's
yeah.
nuts. So
Yeah, it's interesting to talk about, actually. So, yeah. Anyway.
Michael Brown says, I think the question really is, does anything actually stop Facebook from growing or from people using it? I'm convinced that the Facebook board could outright murder someone and people will still use the platform. Remember when Facebook was just about like sharing your college notes?
Yes. That wasn't that long ago.
I was too old. I left college by that time. Like, there's this thing called Facebook. And I was like, oh, what's it? That's only
I wasn't in
college.
college at the time of Facebook either. So, yes, we're both geezers, I suppose. Yeah, no, we talked about that on a show earlier this week that outside of breaking up the company, it really doesn't seem like they're going to have any impediments to continue to grow. They've embedded themselves and rooted themselves in so many different aspects of the internet that, this conspiracy theory is a perfect example of just how little credibility they have in the marketplace, that people are literally thinking that Facebook is listening in on their conversations, and it doesn't really prevent them from using Facebook.
I think to that actual question, though, if a board member did murder somebody, I think it would cause some kind of issue for at least that person. Facebook as a company, they might have a bunch of statements, will stop people from using them. Like you were saying, no, because Facebook is so locked into so many different parts. If you want to log in with Facebook, that's really easy as to, instead of going, here's my email address, let's set up a password, let's do this thing back and forth, this stupid little dance you have to do for so many different sites.
Yes.
That Facebook login was a huge piece that made them integral to so many different sites.
And it is super easy. I used it for Spotify for a really long time just because I was getting sick of constantly doing a new email, new password, and they're constantly dangling that in front of you saying like, hey, just click this button and you'll be logged in. This is super easy. And it got to the point after so many of these Facebook controversies, one after the other, were just cascading, that Spotify did not make it easy for me to transition to an email password, but I reached out to them directly. It's like they put a couple stones in your way because I guess they don't want to deal with it. But ultimately, once I got somebody on customer service and did a live chat, I was able to switch over. So if you want to do that the same way I did, just reach out to customer service through live chat. They're really nice when you do it, but yeah, it just shows like how difficult it is, even for this one little thing, to kind of get Facebook out of your life.
And as for growth, I mean, the fact that at the last F8, Facebook kind of begrudgingly saying, yeah, we're going to do more private stuff. That's what you guys want. That's what we want to give you. That's a huge pivot. That's a huge change. And they're willing to do it. So will they stop growing? Probably not if they're actually listening to consumers. Imagine that. Instead of going like, no, this is what you want. It's like, no, okay, we've tried to push this as long as we could.
Wait, so they are listening?
They are definitely listening to users. Yeah. Good one.
That's true.
I don't know what Facebook as a platform, like Facebook.com, would look like as like a more private network. Like the
Path,
the
or
whole
Google
concept
Circles.
is. I guess so. I mean, the whole concept is built around like you disseminate information to like literally every single person that you're friends with.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a huge shift in the way Facebook would actually operate as like a thing for consumers to digest.
Listen, we all know that Facebook isn't trying to aggregate and listening and information on you to sell you things. They're just playing the long game. They're piling up all this information so they can eventually clone and replace us all.
Yes, that's where the real money is, in clone and replacement.
Storage also an issue there. I was talking about server space. And this ain't the Matrix. I mean, unless you have stacks and stacks, maybe that's what Hudson Yards is for.
I don't know.
These giant
yeah.
towers are full of clones.
Look, Mark needs more robots to talk to. I guess that's the reason.
He's built Jarvis, didn't he? He doesn't need to talk to anybody else.
Oh, okay, fine.
There's actually an interesting perspective from Razer X53. It says, sound is too rich to process en masse. Facebook always-on apps can track your movements throughout the day to build a heat map of your house, and it's precise enough to even know which room is your toilet. That is fascinating. Do we have any information to back that up?
I don't know if that's true, but it sounds terrifying.
I mean, it's a thought. Like, that's a valuable thought to think about.
Well, I mean, internal GPSs aren't necessarily that great. We've seen issues with Google having trouble with Google Maps with getting inside of malls, right? So if you're able to track somebody within their home to that degree where you can tell which room is which, that would be surprising. And also, again, like if Facebook has this amazing technology where they can either compress audio so well that they can like attach it to Facebook messages so you don't even notice it, or they have the ability to track people within like 2 feet.
To know where your toilet is.
They should be talking to the military. They're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
They could be making a lot more money going, hey, we got this super easy way to move audio and we can track people within a foot.
So that question is interesting in that Sundar Pichai was before a congressional hearing last year, and I don't remember if this was a senator of the House, but one of the Congress people specifically asked him, if I move from where I'm sitting here across the room somewhere else, is Google going to know about that? And unfortunately, I think he was holding an iPhone, and Sundar's from Google, so it was an Android thing. And so he did not, he declined to answer the question specifically and punted using technicalities. And he said, that's an iPhone and there are too many nuances and this and that, so I can't really say one way or the other, whatever. But to me, it was telling in that he wouldn't say no. He didn't say like, no, we can't figure that out. And obviously like Google Maps does work when you're using it to like walk around in the city. Mm-hmm. So they can track you because you're asking them to. You want them to know that you're at this specific corner so you can get to where you need to go.
I remember hearing that question and I was like, okay, how is he going to handle this? And first, that's an iPhone, which I thought was very funny. Because it's like, well, we don't make that. The look on the representative's face was kind of like, you don't? It's like, all right, you don't know what's going on. So I think if you try to explain it, this guy's head would have exploded.
It was pretty clear to me he didn't want to answer the question.
Yeah, that's it.
And you know,
it'd make Google look bad that they are tracking you. Yeah, my phone's listening to me.
Oh, whoa.
The wake word. I said Google, and you heard the chime? I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah. Throw that phone in the trash.
No, man. It's supposed to do that.
It's listening.
That's an opt-in.
Okay.
That's
All
okay.
right.
My note is okay, guys.
I'm officially conspiracy theoried up thanks to this conversation.
All right, we're winding down here. One more quickie for Facebook related. Yan asks, how about WhatsApp calls? I know WhatsApp is encrypted, but will they be scanning WhatsApp call details in the future?
First of all, that might be illegal due to wiretapping issues, I believe.
We already talked about Facebook and legality.
Right.
This could destroy their entire business, though.
I would think that would be a huge violation.
Well, in
if
theory,
something like that were to actually occur.
The idea that the calls themselves and the data is encrypted end to end doesn't necessarily protect the time something was called or the messages were made, correct? Or I'm not sure on that. Like, I'm sure they could have a log of, 8:35, Ben sent a message to Ayaz and back and forth, but they won't be able to read the messages themselves. So I'm not sure if the time stamp data is available or not.
It should be. I mean,
Yeah.
like, they're the ones that are providing the platform.
That seems like, logically, seems like they would have access to that, but
The other thing is that is not necessarily bad data for them to get. They're just, the WhatsApp people are aware of what the peaks and the spikes are in usage. So they know, like, oh, we need to, like, fire up such and such many servers because, it's the morning in New York, and that's when people tend to use WhatsApp a lot more often. So just because they have certain types of data doesn't necessarily mean it's nefarious, I would say. Like, when we're talking about this stuff, we do have to be careful that not all data capture is bad.
yeah, it's just cycling servers, right? It's electrical usage, this kind of billing, not exciting information of like, oh, 8:36, we got to turn everything on.
Yeah.
9:07, turn it off. It's like, all right. But the actual information within those messages are supposed to be encrypted, and they have been encrypted as far as we know. So that Facebook should not have access to any of the contents of that, no matter if it's a call, a picture, writing, whatever.
Yes.
All right, shifting gears over to facial recognition tech real quick. Mike Shaw says, I don't always agree with San Francisco politics, but in this case, I'm on board. Otherwise, the Fourth Amendment means nothing. This is, of course, in regard to the facial recognition technology ban we mentioned at the top of the show. Timothy asks, can you wear a high beam LED on your glasses or hat where the facial recognition camera couldn't fully read it? It's like the exact same episode from White Collar. Now, I have not seen that one.
There's apparently there are, like, certain ways that people are figuring out how to mask their faces out of concern that facial recognition tech is already pretty invasive. Like at retail stores, at the airport, at malls, different places like that. So if you put it in a pair of glasses, I think that is probably a less invasive way of doing it. I found some guy online that's really against facial recognition tech that in his profile photo, he had some, like, really goofy looking sticker that he had on his face to throw off facial recognition tech. So, it made him look rather strange, and I'm sure people don't want to live in a world where they're, tattooing or stickering their face just so they can go around and avoid being tracked all the time.
We have to change it up, some kind of regularity. I've seen makeup tricks that are supposed to fool these kinds of things. The question is whether it's based on 2D tech or 3D tech. We've seen with Face ID, when Scott Stein's like shaving his beard, putting on scarves, wearing a top hat, it was able to still recognize him.
Right.
So I guess it depends really on the camera technology. If the LEDs are there and they're blinding a regular camera, I guess that would be a problem for certain 2D cams. But 3D cams, as they come in, I mean, that's a whole, I don't think that's being deployed just yet.
No.
If that is, then I don't know if you'd be able to get around it, honestly, other than wearing prosthetics.
We're not really at the point where it's a mass surveillance issue, and I can definitely understand from the perspective of the ACLU and a lot of other privacy groups that they're saying, like, look, if there's a protest, is the government going to track who the people in the crowd are? I think those are very credible arguments to be making.
Agreed.
But we're not there yet. These are still very targeted usages. But luckily it is getting a lot of attention. So there is much more awareness as far as how government and police agencies are using this tech.
Yeah, it's getting us to talk about it, which is actually the most important thing, because if people are aware of it, they can go, okay, wait a second, maybe we shouldn't have a total ban, maybe we should, or maybe we should come up some kind of middle ground. But having the conversation going about this and getting people talking about it in a pretty tech-forward city like San Francisco could be a good start, because, I mean, the whole point of this, why do we have 50 states? Why do we have all these different governments? It's like, well, you try something there, and if it works really well, maybe this other state does it. Maybe because of federal policy. They're all experimental hotbeds, and that's how it's supposed to be. So if San Francisco is trying something like this, why not? They also charge, 10 cents for a bag?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, ooh, that's crazy. But they're doing it. Might work in other places too.
Yeah, it's a good point. The Washington County Sheriff's Office in Oregon is using Amazon's facial recognition technology to make arrests already. So when you're talking about a hotbed of all sorts of different experimentation, you've got San Francisco on one side and Washington County and Oregon on the complete other side. And we'll see what sort of, and I've talked to Washington County, and they're very much interested in being involved in this conversation. They say that they want to be on the forefront of that type of conversation of how to effectively and responsibly use facial recognition in policing.
I volunteer to get the next tattoo on my face to try to fool facial recognition tech. Mike Shaw says, just get a ski mask, go old school. And all I can think of is, remember that meme from a year or two ago? Maybe it was even longer, about the guys who try to rob a bank by drawing all over their face with Sharpies so that they wouldn't be recognized. That's all I can picture happening here right now.
Yeah, that's very sensible.
Okay, we're out of time, but I came to realize something today with mentions from both Matthew Datcher and Timothy Dew. You guys know the doomsday clock, right? The ticks closer and closer to midnight as we get closer and closer to destroying ourselves. What we need here at CNET, specifically on this show, is a minority report clock that ticks closer and closer until that perfect technology absolution and like identity stripping world that Minority Report was based in. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, tech has really veered into some pretty dark territory these days, and I'm all for it. Like if we're not talking about it, then it's kind of like a frog boiling. So
I mean,
bring on the clock.
You can just integrate it into this circle here.
Yeah.
While we got it.
I'm legitimately thinking about pitching this. Sound off. Do we need to develop a Minority Report clock? If so, I will work with the graphics team and make that happen. But we are out of time for the day, and your Thursday is our Friday, so we're done for the week. Everybody have a terrific weekend. We'll see you back on Monday. Yeah, we don't have any other gaps coming up anytime soon. So, hey, Aya, it's good to have you back. Thanks for coming.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Ben, get us out of here.
All right, the 359 is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, FeedBurner, Google Play Music, Google Podcast, the Amazon Echo, and of course, CNET.com. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you again Monday.
Bye, folks.